There's a ton of beef between Kendrick Lamar and Drake, but there's more beef around the glenohumeral joint of a Jared Feather IFB Pro. His favorite top delt exercises for your side gains begin right now.
All right, what's up everybody? So, my first exercise that I'm picking is one that you probably don't see me do too often, but I will program a lot for clients. The Freemotion front raise, where you're kind of starting with the cables behind you, is an amazing front delt exercise. I program it a lot for tons of female clients who aren't doing a lot of pressing in the gym. If somebody has weak front delts, the only way I really tend to program their front delt training is with more isolated variations of the front delt. Like you can do military pressing and stuff, especially if your pecs and your triceps need a little bit of extra work, but you're trying to emphasize the front delts, feel free to military press. But I think you can do a better job of isolating the tissue and doing some form of a front raise. I think that the Freemotion station here is the one front delt exercise I will put on this list, simply for the fact that when you start with the cables behind you, you get way more of a stretch. And I think that I had to put a front delt exercise on this list just because people are gonna be like, well, where are the front delt exercises? This is a damn good one. The horns are growing.
Why you gotta hate? Why you gotta hate? You raised me.
I know.
Look, people, front raises are dope. Jared's spot on. If you're gonna wanna add front delt volume, you might not wanna add it in the most fatiguing way possible, which is the standing barbell press, followed by standing dumbbell press, followed by seated barbell press, followed by seated dumbbell press. It really is a high fatigue exercise. It's great for stimulus, but not just for front delts, for triceps as well and for upper pecs. For a lot of the female clients Jared trains, they're judged very much on their delts, but they don't want them to have triceps that are excessively large. They don't want them to have huge upper pecs. And so for them, this exercise is super, super critical. So this is a little bit more of a scalpel rather than a hammer that really focuses on your front delts. My front delts I don't have to train because I had literally like fake front delt material scalpeled in. It was in Guatemala? Is that where we went? The guy was a doctor. I don't know. There was like crickets and stuff around. I did it with without being put under. It was tough, but now my front delts are big.
So if you are doing the front raise variation, you could also use cuffs, keeping your thumbs facing up. We have actually done many variations, and I do this often. You'll see at the end I have a cable facepull variation that hits a couple of the delt muscles. If you do the variation where your palms are facing down and you do this, you're getting a lot of front delt involvement, especially coming out here. But it is an awesome lateral delt exercise too. And because I train my lateral delts, rear delts, probably 4 times a week, I tend to do that. I'll have variations like face pulls or upright rows where you are hitting some of the other musculature, getting the traps involved, getting the rear delts involved. So this one, if you are a female who's training lateral delts and you need to hit front delts as well, like one of my female clients I say, or somebody with weak front delts of course, and you still want to hit lateral delts that day, this is a totally awesome variation because you're hitting both pretty well. But if you are literally just trying to isolate that front delt, putting the thumbs up to the ceiling and cuffs even better almost. Make sure you have some straps. I don't have straps right now, but hitting them like this, you're gonna get a lot more front delt, taking a little bit of the less or more of the delt musculature out of it rather than just using the front delts like this. All right, my second variation for delts is the upright row. I keep upright row variations in for my lateral delt training, basically half of the last 14 years, which is my entire training career. A lot of people say they don't like them. They're an amazing lateral delt exercise, amazing exercise overall for the musculature surrounding the delts. Great trap involvement as well, if you'd like. Oftentimes people run into a situation where they do start to train with lots of frequency for the lateral delts. And if you're doing a lot of lateral delt variations, machine lateral raises, dumbbell lateral raises especially, some people tend to get issues with their elbows because you're always holding the dumbbells and machines out here. And especially if you don't have cuffs, this can become a pretty big issue for elbow tendonitis and things of that nature. Also, the movement pattern is so damn similar like this. So I like this for variation just for pronation angle changes and things like that, just the way that you're actually targeting the tissue, getting a little bit of extra trap involvement because I got shitty traps anyway, and I don't think anybody has too big of traps. Making sure you have your verses on. Good call, Dr. Mike. Keeping 1 or 2 of these variations in per mesocycle for me is kind of like how I like to structure it. Couple lateral raise variations, couple upright row variations, maybe a cable facepull variation. But the upright row is one of my all-time favorite exercises, especially on a cable. I'm done with your shit today.
I got something to say.
You're done, okay? Okay, son?
No, Dad.
I will make
No,
you-
because when you got laid off at the factory,
Yeah.
who was there to take care of things?
Your face was there to
And
take care
I
of my...
paid with my face.
You sure did.
A lot of folks will ask questions about what kind of bar to use, where to stand with respect to the machine, and how to arc the trajectory. And really, that's one of these human variations is so wide situations that the answer to the question is try a bunch of them, see which ones work, and you're not looking just for the perfect one. There's gonna be a bunch that work. Sometimes if you stand a little bit behind the machine, as you pull, you have to pull back as well as up. It engages the posterior side of your lateral delts, even your rear delts a little bit. That's really nice. You can stand closer to get the full elbows up effect if you like, and it's pure side delts at that point. You can use a straight bar, you can use a slightly curvy bar, you can use, hypothetically, all sorts of attachments. Really the question to ask is, how do my wrists feel? How do my elbows feel? How do my shoulder joints feel? Am I getting a good kind of stimulus tension and stretch and pump and burn in the side delts that I'm targeting? And also, how much am I being forceful? Like, am I not how much weight I can lift necessarily that will reflect, but do I really feel like I'm recruiting everything? Your wrists and elbows might feel fine in this grip, like they don't hurt, but you just don't feel like you're activating a whole lot. If you feel like you're really doing something, a wider grip could work, a narrow grip could work, and everything in between. This applies to every part of upright rowing, including how high you're pulling. There's nothing wrong with pulling just to your nipples. Matter of fact, I'm just gonna cut myself off. And then pulling to your clavicles is cool, pulling to your chin, nose, eyes, and you can do the James Hoffman, where you can pull above your head. That actually is a baller variation you should try, unless your shoulders were bullied at school a lot, just never recovered.
To Mike's points about the grip and the variation you use, I am pretty good with a close grip on these. The wider I go, the worse it feels for my delts. The easy bar attachment here also feels a little better for my wrist, so I can get a pretty close grip, slightly holding onto these, the groove part here on the easy bar attachment. And I can get pretty high as well. So if this is as high as you feel you can get without your shoulders hurting or your elbows or anything, that's fine. I'm able to get pretty high on these, especially when I use that closer grip. Experiment with your grip width, experiment with the attachment. And if you can get through a larger range of motion without pain, it's probably a little better. So if the close grip variation with the easy bar attachment allows you to get here, and the straight bar wider grip allows you to get here, try this out for a little bit, see how it feels. If you don't have any joint pain, it's probably good to go. If over the course of a couple mesocycles you begin to experience some joint pain, you don't have to take them out entirely, but you can experiment with different variations. The next variation that I like to do, and this is probably one of my all-time favorites, is the Freemotion Y-Raise. There are tons of ways to do these. I've seen people lying down. I've seen them do behind the body. I've seen them do without crossing the cables. I've seen them with crossing the cables from this height. This is probably my favorite height to do them from, and I also like to cross the cables in front of me. It's a very awesome stretch for the lateral delts, and it's one of the only variations where you can actually come all the way across your body and get the full stretch for that lateral delt. So this is a variation you can include a lot of intensity techniques with like length and partials and things of that nature. So this variation, just one of my all-time favorites, especially whenever you're getting somebody really deep in a contest prep and you want to take a little bit of stress off the elbows, because you can, in fact, use these cuffs yet again. Give these a shot if you've never done them. The Y-Raise is a really badass exercise, and there are all kinds of different types of Y-Raises that you can do. The biggest thing in a Y-Raise generally is getting that huge stretch across the body and getting the 4 range of motion on the exercise. So a lot of people will ask us about this, but do I need to change which cable is in front between sets? So if you like, you can readjust, take this cuff off, put this cable over the top, whatever. It's not a huge deal, to be honest. But if it is something you want to track and you're using something like, let's say, the RPI Hypertrophy app, you can make notes about that. If you're that concerned with it, I assume you're okay with taking a note about it. So just set 1, right cable underneath, set 2, left cable underneath. That's how I would track it. So again, not inherently necessary. One delt might be getting out in front of the other a little bit, but to be honest, they're both getting a pretty damn good stretch here. So just for your sake and for neuroticism's sake, feel free to switch them up between the sets.
Quick tip on the Freemotion Y-Raise is when you cross streams like they told us in Ghostbusters not to do, and in summer camp when you're trying to pee with each other, they might snag a little bit. but the way to deal with that often is to back up a little bit more out of the machine. That helps. You might also have to cut your ROM at the bottom and just come down to here. If you come across, they'll snag. But just find where a good spot is for you before snag occurs, and then go from there. That's my only tip. The JR described this so well. I have nothing else to add. I've never had much to add, really. Just been grifting on YouTube.
Next exercise that is in my top 5 favorites for the lateral delts or the delts would be the dumbbell lateral raise. Dumbbell lateral raise is just an exercise that everybody has basically access to. A lot of people have home gyms, a lot of people have Planet Fitness style gyms or gyms that don't have Freemotion stations or really fancy machines, lateral machines, things like that. So I have kept lateral raises with the dumbbell in for a very long time as well, unless I'm having some sort of like elbow issues at the time. There are tons of variations you can do that include just doing a regular dumbbell lateral raise, full range of motion all the way up, super arm laterals, pauses. You can even do a variation where you keep tension on them, you don't go all the way down because there's not a lot happening down here. So I'm just gonna show you guys the generic dumbbell lateral raise, maybe a few cues like keeping the elbows up, but definitely one of my all-time favorites, dumbbell lateral raises. It's an amazing exercise. Just watch the swinging and make sure you're using full range of motion.
The usual stuff with variation applies to all sorts of lateral raises here. Some folks like to point their pinkies up a lot and come all the way to the side and really even like back behind themselves. Gnarly for rear and side delts. Probably don't want to go too high, it feels wacky in the shoulders. Right here is an excellent movement. You can get a little bit more parallel and come a little bit more to the side rather than back, generally stopping right about here. If you like, you can keep your palms down to the ground same way, come up to the front here, and then a little bit out front like this, and then you can stop here, but you can also do the super arm laterals. So when people say, you know, where should my wrists be? Where should my shoulders be? Which way should I arc? The answer is generally like, as long as you're not pointing your thumbs up, that's really front delts. If you're pointing your palms down or even pinkies up, any variety of back to side to slightly front, what, you know, people call this the scapular plane works, and any range of motion works, including a super arm range of motion, a range of motion that goes just to below parallel, and even one of my personal favorites, just above parallel for a 1 second hold, and then a slow eccentric back down.
The next variation on my top 5 favorites for delts is a modification to the cable Facepull. You'll notice there's a different attachment. You'll notice that I'm kind of at eye level here. This variation is cool because most people don't have weak rear delts. You get a lot of rear delt training with your back. And similar to the first variation I showed you with front delts, you can modify this such that you're getting the rear delt hit really well, especially on the stretch because of some of the tips that I'll share here. But you can also get more lateral delt involvement. And because you're trying to train those lateral delts a little more frequently in your programs, this one's really cool to tack onto an end of a program. I especially like this variation for myo reps and supersets. So doing the Facepull this way and going into a superset where you're doing a regular Facepull can really fry the rear delts a ton, and you'll have a nice lateral delt hit there at the end. And then the myo reps really mess me up on this exercise. You can use your straps, you don't have to use your straps. I use this attachment for a specific purpose. There's a V here, and similar to the cable that people use generally, the rope, it gets this out of the way so you're not smashing yourself in the forehead, because whenever I do this, you'll see how it looks. There's one more tip that I want to share with you guys. So Scott, maybe if you can come see the cable, because people don't really think about this too often. When I'm doing this variation, if I let the eccentric come down here, I'm running into a situation where I'm actually taking tension off the delts and I'm allowing the cable to pull up this way. There's like no tension on this. It's just kind of coming this way. I'm lifting this up intentionally because I'm trying to keep tension on my rear delts the whole time in my delts. So if I can resist the cable pulling me down just a tad, it's a lot better for the eccentric action here. Because you're gonna run into a situation where you do the rep and it's starting to get really hard, and instead of staying up here and staying into the rep and really leaning into that stretch, you'll see people go like this. Oh yeah, that's nice, because it's easier. So if you can really take the eccentric slow, come back, do it, and then keep the cable high, 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 get the stretch on the rear delts, it's gonna feel a lot better. So, well, a lot better, a lot worse. But so watch the cable, make sure it's at the proper height. You can even set it down one lower if you'd like, because you're gonna lean back a little bit. But it's, for me, it's about like chin height, the cable is, because I know that I'm gonna lean back a little bit. But really take that cue into consideration, because oftentimes when people do the eccentric phase on a lift, they speed it up, they try to get other muscles involved because it's getting super hard. But as you hear me and Mike say all the time on the channel, lean into that pain, lean into the stretch. That's how you do that on this exercise.
This is what I call a hard implement. Something solid to it. Someone can get the job done on prom night, fellas. But they didn't call me Mr. Flappy in high school for no reason. It's your boy out here, yeah, like that. And while I always packed the size, and it was black, it's curiously enough, similar shape. My shit's like
exactly
this wide, the hole. The reality of the matter is none of that's true. However, rope face pulls are dope because they can accommodate a different angle up front and behind. They allow you to open up your elbows at the back. Some folks will love this kind of fixed attachment. A lot of people like the rope for the face pulls. Really, it's your call, 100%. Experiment and give it a shot. Another thing that you guys will see me do is I like to do my face pulls eliminating the back almost entirely and really prioritizing the side delts. So what I'll do is I will lower this implement all the way down to about hip height, and I'll pull from there, which is my favorite variation. But there are no wrong answers. Anything between hip and head and even just above head height is a really, really good idea to try.
The last thing, you notice how I did the reps. The way that we're doing these, instead of just coming here and pulling straight to the eyes, to get the lateral delts involved, you're actually moving the elbows up and back out of the way like this. So this is rear and lateral delt. You're hitting both at the same time. Whereas, yeah, maybe you're hitting a little more lateral delt and tears and the traps and all the rhomboids and stuff like this, kind of like a road to the eyebrows. We're trying to attack the rear and the lateral delts on this exercise. So if you can pull this up and back like this, keep that cable tension high here, you're gonna get a lot more out of the exercise. It's gonna be harder. You're gonna use less weight, all the good stuff that we preach. Give it a shot. Is that 5'9"?
No, it's just higher up. It's probably about 5'10".
No, it's 5'9".
5'9"?
I'm 5'10".
But we're eye to eye.
No, we're not. Am I taller than him right now?
Folks, that's all we have for you today, Jared. Thank you for putting the D in delts.
Yeah, those are great. And those are just 5 that I like. I believe you put out a top 5 video as well. Go check that out because it's really good as well. I think we had some different variations in there, but no wrong answers on lateral delt training besides the wrong answers. You can't do squats for lateral delts.
Yeah, just don't screw it up.
Yeah, don't screw it up. But I really like these at the time of filming this. Maybe I'll find ones that I like more in the future.
Yeah.
But those are great.
You've put the D in delts. Let's go put the D in me.
Each other.
Beautiful. See you guys next time.